What you're about to see is a completely different way to think about recruiting. This isn't about chasing people, convincing them, or trying to prove your value over and over again. This is about flipping the entire dynamic. It's about positioning yourself as someone worth earning access to, not someone begging for attention. This is Steve Koleno, and this is Confidential Remarks. This is a mindset shift that changes everything. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Most people are stuck in this loop right here. You pitch your model, you send follow-ups, you wait, you hear, let me think about it, and then nothing. You get ghosted, and then you start over again. It feels productive, but it's actually draining your time and your confidence. The problem is, the more you chase, the less valuable you look. You're stuck proving yourself to people who haven't earned that effort. Here's the hard truth. The moment you start chasing someone, you've already lowered your position. When you push too hard, it sends a signal that you need them more than they need you. And people can feel that. The disruptor does the opposite. They don't chase. They attract. They create a situation where the agent starts leaning in instead of pulling away. When you lead by pitching everything up front, you give all the power away. Now the agent is sitting there thinking, should I join this? Or let me think about it. But when you flip it, something interesting happens. They start asking, am I good enough for this? And what do I need to do to get in? That shift from them evaluating you to them evaluating themselves is where the game changes. There's actually science behind this. When people feel like something is restricted, their brain reacts. It creates this strong urge to want it even more. It's like putting a big red button in front of someone and saying, don't press it. Suddenly, that's all they want to do. When access feels limited, desire goes up. That's human nature. Think about a velvet rope outside a club. The harder it is to get in, the more people want to be inside. It's the same principle here. When people have to earn access, they value it more. It's not about being difficult. It's about having standards. When you become the gatekeeper, your opportunity becomes something people respect, not something they casually consider. People can tell the difference between fake urgency and real selectivity. Saying only 3 spots left doesn't build trust. It actually creates skepticism. But when you genuinely say, this isn't for everyone, and you mean it, everything changes. Now the question isn't, do I want this? It becomes, do I qualify for this? That's a completely different conversation. This is the big shift. Stop selling your brokerage. Start controlling access to it. Instead of trying to convince everyone, you create a process where people have to step up and prove they belong. You move from being the one chasing to being the one evaluating. That's the moment everything starts to feel easier and more natural. This is the framework that makes it all work. It's a simple 4-step process designed to shift your role from salesperson to gatekeeper in just a few minutes. Each step builds on the last, guiding the conversation in a way that naturally creates interest, clarity, and commitment without pressure. Right from the start, you set the frame. You say, before we go any further, I want to make sure we're a good fit. That one line changes everything. Now you're not chasing, you're evaluating. You're making it clear that access isn't automatic. And instantly, they lean in because they realize they might not just get in by default. Next, you clearly lay out the 2 paths. One path is for people who want to move fast, think differently, and disrupt. The other is for people who prefer the safe, traditional route. You're not judging, you're just defining. And when you do that, most people naturally want to align with the stronger, more forward-thinking path. This step is about listening closely. When they tell you something, you reflect it back in your own words, but using their exact language. That makes them feel understood instantly. It builds trust without effort. People open up more when they feel heard, and that gives you everything you need to guide the conversation. Now you bring it all together. You say, from everything you've told me, you sound like a great fit. The real question is, does this feel right for you? Notice what just happened. You removed pressure and handed the decision to them. That's powerful, because people trust decisions they feel they made themselves. When you validate someone, you lower their defenses. And when you ask them to decide, you activate their identity. If they've been saying they're driven and ready to grow, they'll want to stay consistent with that. So saying yes becomes the natural choice. You're not pushing them. You're aligning with who they already believe they are. At the end, you do something unexpected. You give them permission to walk away. You say you're completely free to choose what's best for you. And here's the twist. When people feel free, they actually lean in more. Removing pressure removes resistance. And that's when real commitment happens. There's research behind this. Studies show that when you remind people they're free to choose, they're actually more likely to say yes. Why? Because it removes the feeling of being pushed. When there's no pressure, there's no resistance. And when there's no resistance, decisions become easy. For this to work, you have to follow 3 rules. First, your standards have to be real. You have to be willing to walk away. Second, stay professional. This isn't about ego, it's about clarity. And third, operate from abundance. When you don't need every deal, you show up differently, and people feel that immediately. This is the bottom line. Stop trying to prove your worth to everyone. Instead, create an environment where people prove themselves to you. When you do that, everything shifts. Conversations get easier. Decisions happen faster. And you start attracting the right people instead of chasing the wrong ones. This has been Confidential Remarks.